yet, probably less than that. So, now, you referred your proposal to the county planning board, and I'm certain by now that you've received their letter. And I have a copy of it, and I know that they actually approved your proposal for a limited moratorium, but they also recommended that you propose a townwide moratorium.
Well, let me stop you right there for just a second. First off, my personal feeling is that county planning stepped out of line with making that recommendation. Because normally you send something to county planning, either they approve or disapprove of it. End of story. My second problem with that is, that letter from county planning that I have, right here, that was dated August 3rd, and I received it on the 4th. If you wanna look at the bottom of the letter, there's only one other person this letter was sent to. At 10-something a.m. on Wednesday, this letter was on the internet. So I then called Mike Borsey. Well, he told me this letter only went to one other person. So, I guess I know how it got on the internet.
I don't know what you're implying.
You want to comment on that?
I didn't put it on the
But,
internet.
you know, so that's my problem with that, but continue.
If I could just address that in a calm manner, because I would really not like this to be not an antagonistic thing. It's one of the problems with this whole process is this town is so stressed and so out of line with everybody that we can't even discuss any of these things. And you know, last night's planning board was a perfect example of that. We can't address the planning board, we can't enact in a dialogue without each of us almost coming to the point of fist fight, right in this very room. And that's everybody's fault, because everybody is so stressed over this. Now, if you're implying that I sent that over the email, I did not. I was informed that.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that, I said it only went to one other person, okay? I don't need to disclose
I
that.
was explaining that letter was for, open to the public, so if I could just yield the floor for a second, because I have the floor to Cliff. Cliff, would you refer to that, please?
Yeah, I mean, it was an important discussion, it was an important decision. It was reported, there was a reporter at that meeting. And I sat on the planning board, for those of you folks that might be wondering about this.
County.
And it was, yeah, the county planning board, and it was an important discussion and decision. We spent a lot of time discussing that. And what the Jefferson County Planning Board normally does is they just recommend. I mean, these are professionals, these are people with years and years of experience. They provide professional help and guidance to all of these town planning boards and town boards and what have you, to give you their expertise and their experience. And what they said in this issue in the letter is they knew the town wanted to do a selective moratorium, but they sort of sat there and said, you know, there are a lot of other issues here too. So they approved the town's request to do a selective moratorium. But they said furthermore, and they urged them, they said, you really ought to consider it townwide because that's where a lot of projects are and everything else. So this was a recommendation that was appended to their approval. It was saying, hey, we folks that have this experience and everything else, we're giving you our 2 cents worth. You can do with it whatever you want. But that was their recommendation. I think that's what you expect from the professional folks and that type of thing. So that the town board, Tom can do whatever he wants with the recommendation, but it still stands. That's the kind of thing that all these towns should be asking. You want to know how these professionals feel about it. And what I did personally is I knew that came out. I knew it was reported in the paper at the time, but I requested from the folks at the planning board who sent a letter to the town. I said, I think this community needs to see that letter so they can better understand. You can read it yourself and see what the town received from the planning board. Is there anything wrong with that? It was already sent to the... Of course not.
Can we settle that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that still an issue? Okay. In that letter,